Hey everybody, welcome to Buffalo Plus and the Buffalo Plus YouTube page. Mike Catalana, Jenna Cottrell, and there's Dan Fates. He is up in Orchard Park for practice today. This team coming off a big win. We always ask you this, Dan, whether you or Jenna are at practice, do you sense any different vibe? Winning, losing, they've got 3 in a row now. Anything different up there?
Didn't feel any different at all. This just kind of seemed like the only thing that's different, Mike, is that you took all the sunshine that you had when you were there on Sunday and you had the beautiful weather. Things are turning here in Western New York. But no, it seemed like it was another run-of-the-mill practice, maybe a little bit subdued. I think that the team is still kind of recuperating. And Josh is a lot of that guy that drives the energy. He even says that in previous weeks that even when the team's a little down, he tries to ramp it up to pick up the energy and pick up the steam. And I think Josh is still kind of dealing with the loss of his grandmother. He was still emotional on the Zoom call that we could see. So I think maybe a little bit subdued, but I don't think it had anything to do with their big win on Sunday.
Jenna, Josh Allen tries his best to deflect everything, right? About his teammates and whether he gets awards and all. It's getting harder and harder for him to do that now, isn't it? Obviously the parts about his grandmother are so personal and everybody wants to know about it, but second time winning AFC Player of the Week. He and Mahomes are the only guys to do that twice so far this year.
Yeah, but I love how committed he is to making it about the team. It is kind of funny when he talks about how he doesn't like the individual awards or anything like that, but absolutely, it's a reflection of his play and how he's been able to take that step and be able to have the offense go through his arm, which is something we were waiting to see and wondering if we would see heading into this year. But it's interesting to me how even when he finds success, he deflects to the team, but when there is any criticism, he takes it on himself. And I think that shows the leader that he is. And even his teammates today talking after practice on Zooms, just Stephon Diggs called him a true leader. And I think that just goes to show the respect that he has in the locker room. And the awards, I'm sure those are the nice parts that come with it too.
And that was the thing I tried to get him to say, because when he won it earlier this year, he said that he called it, quote, not a big deal. And I thought that was fitting. The team was humming. They were 4-0 and all of that stuff. And he said, I asked him, when he described the kind of the 48 hours from Saturday to Sunday, really hard, just understanding that he said he was in shock. He was in disbelief. He said he wanted to be there with his family, but that he never thought about not playing. He said his grandmother, Grammy, would have wanted him to play. But he said that this one was great. He says more for his family to know that he played in honor of her for that win. But he goes, I'm not a big fan of the personal ones. This win had to mean a lot with everything that was going on. He won't say it, but yeah. He's kind of lying. This one meant a lot.
It does reflect, go ahead.
I also do find it interesting the fact he was asked, with the decision, and it was a decision whether or not he would want to play knowing what was going on, off of the field. And he said it wasn't even something he thought of. He knew his Grammy would want him to play. And that was something that he held very dear to him. And the fact that, his mom was saying that she would have now the best seat in the house. So I think it was definitely, the award's always nice. Like that has got, like Dan said, to be meaningful to both him and his family on a personal level.
When you think about the personal response for anybody, these guys don't have normal jobs, right? They are, he is the leader of the team. They only play once a week. Everything in his family for right now revolves around him playing.
Yeah.
And, his idol, we know, is Brett Favre. And people talk about that iconic, terrible moment for Brett Favre. They were playing the Raiders where his father died. Mm-hmm. And that night he had to play. And he played as great as he was. Yeah, he might have played his best single game ever. And I always think to myself, like, in those circumstances, sometimes people could be overcome more by grief than anything. But I don't see, for somebody like this who's so driven, what benefit it would be to not play. Because that is what this comes from, that relationship with his grandmother, like Brett Favre with his father. A lot of it surrounded football. And, sometimes it's cliche to say this is what people would want. My guess is, Jenna, listening to him talk about his grandmother, Grammy would have wanted him on that football field, like he said.
That's exactly.
But it was also interesting too, because he's such an emotional guy. And at times his emotions have gotten the best of him. you look back at some games where he's been overhyped early in games and he's come out and said, I was too emotional. I needed to calm down. And not to block it out. You know, I think some people want to say, you know, block out just for 60 minutes, go out and play football. He said he was thinking about her. He said, you know, we had talked about in Buffalo Plus that the pictures of him pointing up were to her. He said he was talking to her during the game and stuff like that. So really, really, you know, touching stuff out of a guy that's 24 years old that's playing this season like a veteran.
And then you add in, obviously, what we've talked about it here, what people have done in the, well, around the country, around the world, but mostly in Western New York, the donations. And it was kind of cool. They're up over close to $350,000 now. The number just keeps going up. Many of them $17 at a time, which is fantastic. I even saw some Bengals fans, which is great, going back to the Andy Dalton thing when people donating in his name. And this is the type of thing, the relationship Western New York and Bills fans have with him, that makes you iconic. You got to win. You want to be that type of player. You got to win. But he's not just a quarterback of this team. He is, without question, the superstar of the team, and people respond to him. So, Dan?
And Mike, that's the first thing. While Bills fans loved Ryan Fitzpatrick for his underdog mentality, Fitzpatrick never really gripped an area like Josh has, right? Like, obviously, with what Jim Kelly did and with Hunter's Hope and with all of that, that kind of grabbed the fan base outside of football, right? And you kind of got to know Jim through that. And is this similar to kind of what you're seeing here?
Yeah, well, I mean, it is, because it's the personal part of the player and people respond to that. And I mean, we see it how many years later. It's people love Jim Kelly because he embraced Buffalo and Buffalo loved him back. And it was that way. So everybody was sort of part of it. Now, what helps that certainly was how much Jim won and brought Bills fans to the Super Bowl 4 times. But even in the game Sunday, people still would have been, you grieve for Josh, they would have respected everything. But from the other side, he went out and won the football game and got named Player of the Week. So it isn't like he just played. He played, you could argue, maybe his best game ever. I mean, he couldn't have done much more. So I thought it was pretty impressive for the whole organization. So, hey, a couple of quick things, Dan, I want to mention. They just had this great game without Mitch Morris playing. I thought that was the big news from today, at least injury-wise, that he's out of concussion protocol.
So Sean McDermott's doing this thing this year. If you haven't noticed, he will not release an injury report. You have to ask the specific player, and then you hope to get an injury update on him. Mitch Morris is out of concussion protocol. He was back at practice. Josh Norman was back at practice. That's a good sign. Matt Milano was not in pads. He was working off to the side. And a guy that nobody asked about because it wasn't an issue last week, John Brown, not at practice, nowhere to be seen. That's a concern. You get Mitch Morris back, slightly concerning, not even seeing John Brown. Nobody asked about John Brown because he was all good last week. So kind of concerning there.
Interesting. I mean, with John Brown not being around, also Trey White I saw not practicing as well.
Yes, Trey White. And I imagine that's still some managing the pain and managing, you know, him being a guy that's probably going to miss maybe practice once a week and then gut it out on Sundays.
Something we got to keep in mind, because we're now hitting this with the bye week, right? Teams are going to want to be smart with certain things. Maybe a guy can play because he's going to get the next week off. With some injuries, you try your best, sit them out, because then they're going to get 2+ weeks off. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. But I'm going to tell you, if guys can play and they're ready, they're going to have them out there, because we know the Cardinals are a pretty good team and it's going to be tough to stop. All right, that's going to do it for us right now. We thank you for watching and listening to us here. Remember to subscribe and to like certainly everything we have on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel and on BuffaloPlus.com. For Jenna Cottrell and Dan Fates, where the weather's changing in Orchard Park, I'm Mike Catalana. Thanks for watching.